Welcome to another episode of Chera and Buckets.
This week we have two new releases that we're going to tackle with mixed results.
So why don't you sit down, grab some popcorn and a Bud Light, and enjoy the show.
Gary.
You seem to be doing a brisk business. Dear Lockin' always. So apparently Dear Lockin' Uber Alles was copyrighted?
Well, we were gonna go with I'm with him until we remembered how stupid it sounded.
No. I love it. I love the whole town genealogy angle. It's got a real bold, you ain't from around here flavor with subtle notes of xenophobia.
That was a scene from Irresistible, one of two new releases we're going to be reviewing today. I'm Stevie Secrets of the Stoughton Wind.
And I'm Willie Buckets of the Boston Post. Sometimes a movie comes along that has all the pieces in place for me to enjoy and celebrate. The right cast, the right director, the right subject matter to get me perked up and engaged. I thought this was the case with writer and director Jon Stewart's new film Irresistible, but unfortunately I was sorely mistaken. Irresistible tells the story of Gary Zimmer, played by Steve Carell, a Democratic campaign strategist who gained notoriety working for the likes of Clinton and Kerry during their respective presidential campaigns. After seeing a YouTube video of a retired Wisconsin Marine, Colonel Jack Hastings, played by Chris Cooper, standing up for the undocumented workers of the small town of Deer Lockin', Gary believes he has the key to winning back the Democratic heartland of America. What follows is a preachy, tone-deaf, uninsightful view of rural America that begs the audience to buy into caricatures that derive our politics, as well as the caricatures who buy the political fodder being fed to them. Irresistible is a must-miss on any day, and I would give it a 3.1 and a solid not recommend. Stevie Secrets, this was a bad movie. Where do we begin?
It's a bad outing. It's unfortunate because, we're both big fans of the Colbert Report. We're big fans of Jon Stewart. His older work, I'll say.
Do you think that fans of Jon Stewart and his era of The Daily Show are gonna like this movie?
They don't like the fucking Late Show with Colbert. They don't like the new Daily Show either because they're not fucking funny.
So, who is this movie appealing to?
No one.
He always was reliable in being able to skewer the politicians or the policies that were put into place, right? He was the guy who was taking those sort of ideas that were kind of being brushed under the rug and bringing them to the forefront in a comedic way. And this is one of the most toothless satires I've
Can you even
ever
call
seen.
it a satire?
No, you can't call it a satire.
Because to me, it's like the satire is so base level. The extent of the satire we get is that a dumb liberal elite can't open a beer.
And not a Bud Light, a Budweiser.
Anyone who knows Stewart's work, you know what you're getting into when you go in. It's so on the nose and just cringe-inducing at points. It's an eye roller.
It knows what it's going for. It's not pulling any punches in trying to expand its audience. The opening of this movie is narration of the president winning the 2016 presidential campaign. Whoa. To have a satire, you can't have it, your feet deeply planted in such a real thing.
Yeah. It's a cynical movie that takes place in the most cynical time in American politics, and at the end of the day, it's just got no bite to it. There's nothing revelatory about this movie. Anyone who has a basic foundation of understanding American politics is not going to find anything revelatory to this movie.
No nuance.
The concept of the movie could be funny.
Pause. Let's take it from there. The logic, too, that Steve Carell's Gary Zimmer, lead Democratic campaign strategist, like I said in my beautiful intro, for the Clintons and the Kerrys, he's going to watch a shoddily edited YouTube video.
Don't forget, Will, he consults his advisors. You know what I'm talking about?
What was the scene?
Where he's like, where it's the white lady, and she's like, my Latinas. And she's like, I did that. It's me saying
scene
that,
was
like,
so bad.
just me saying that, you know what you're getting into with that scene. It's so eye-rolling. It's pathetic.
Just from a complete logic standpoint, right?
Logically, this movie makes no sense.
The satire could be how this is how the political landscape is, where a shoddily edited YouTube video could catapult you into your small town of Deer Lock-In's mayoral campaign.
John is trying to skewer a money-driven liberal campaign financer. So, in Steve Carell's eyes, what he sees in this town, because of this YouTube video, money, success, notoriety, and that's the whole point of the movie that he's going for, is that money drives politics, money drives these campaigns. It's not about the actual issues at hand. The issues are decided by the people. But any person who is a fan of Jon Stewart and has been watching his show knows that that is a thing in politics. Everyone knows that money drives politics and would want more of that. Or at least, if you're going to make a satire, at least make something a little bit more revelatory. It's a movie that's designed to have upper class liberals nod their head and say, "Yup, we need to
pat
focus
themselves on the back.
We need to focus on the lower class."
Well, also let's just talk about how much of a waste Chris Cooper is. Chris Cooper is wasted in this movie. Chris Cooper doesn't have one scene where you get what he's about.
No, it's
a waste of time.
It is a waste of time to the point where it feels like us talking about this is a fucking waste of our time, because the movie says nothing about anything, and it's just dull.
It brings nothing to the table. And the thing that's most infuriating about it is that it is just incredibly unfunny. There's one scene, and I'm watching a YouTube video, right? I'm watching a YouTube video and it has an ad, right? It's the scene where they do the first phone bang, right? So the setup and the punchline of the scene is they got all these, town people in, and they're going to set up a phone bang. So Steve Carell kind of elaborates, here's the list of the people you're going to be calling. So start, and he claps his hands, and then all their phones start ringing, and they pick it up. They're calling each other because they're on the same call list, and that's the joke. But it is played so flat and so stale that you just don't get a joke. And so I'm watching. I'm getting ready to watch the Barstool Rundown, and I see this advertisement. I see this ad, and so I'm gonna watch it. We had already watched it, and even in an ad, it plays so flat.
The jokes don't land, but when it tries to be witty, there's a scene, and I'm not lying here, where Chris Cooper, who is this blue-collar worker, goes with Steve Carell to New York to a big mansion filled with lobbyists and big donors to try to get support.
Now I'm kind of getting it, reinforcing your idea. The whole money drive.
Of course, yep. And guess what the first thing he sees when he walks through the door? A modern contemporary art sculpture that is a scythe, a hoe, a rake, all of these blue-collar farmers' tools melded into this high society contemporary art, and it is just like, there's no subtlety. When you get a movie that he's trying to say something about class here, obviously.
Well, it's also just poor when you're framing it like that, because it's like, especially from a guy like Stewart, it's like, dude, it's like Chris Cooper saw like a painting of a farmer with a piece of wheat sticking out of his mouth and overall shirtless. Literally. It's like the whole thing that rubbed me like the most about it is calling this movie a satire while playing the cards so close to home to real events. Now look, like there's numerous satires that take real life events, real life people, right?
But here's the thing that's different is they're funny. And
they're funny
insightful.
And they have something to say. This movie just plants its feet in the time frame of the president getting elected, and then this just liberal outrage. We're going to sound like a couple of fucking Ben Shapiros right now, but it's like you'd have to be dumb to think that the liberal hubris isn't what lost the election in 2016, And so this movie reeks of liberal hubris, of just this smarmy, arrogant, we're better than you, and the movie just
here's the thing,
completely reinforces that, and it's bad.
One of the worst parts about the movie to me is that John is trying to say, by having Steve Carell be a Democratic campaign manager, you could have easily had him be a Republican campaign manager.
Which would have, you say that now, and it would have been 10 times more interesting.
I'm not saying it would be more or less interesting. I'm just saying he's trying to say, like, oh, look, money drives both sides. And it's like, we fucking get that. We understand that money drives politics and influences it. He hammers it home at the end of the fucking movie when he has literally iMovie text pop up.
Oh my God, it's money's print
money, and it says
from like Getty Images, like
from
money
Getty
printing.
Images, it like says something along the lines of like money influences politics.
But I want to go back. I want to go back to what you just said.
Oh,
Imagine this. Imagine this. Imagine if Jon Stewart wrote Irresistible, and Steve Carell is a Republican campaign strategist campaigning for a Republican. Jon Stewart could skewer the Republican Party and give it his 2 cents.
The Republican was the focus. You're digging way too into the Drumpfian stuff, though.
But think about
I feel like it would be even worse.
How plain and boring was this movie? If he took it from the other side and had a star as recognizable as Steve Carell play the other side, you get so much more out of that. Yeah. This movie is just self-serving, and it's a big, liberal pat on the back at just a baseline. Mm-hmm. You can't satirize this president.
What's up, dude? You don't think the President Show's funny, or the Late Show with Stephen Colbert's funny, or the Daily Show with Trevor Noah's funny? These shows are all really funny, Will.
Making a full-length, statement, a full-length movie that is a direct result of the wake of the 2016 election, and having that be the backdrop of your movie brings something to it. Make us feel different or think different. It just falls flat, and it was miserable.
The Campaign is probably a better satire, to be honest, or literally like
The Campaign 2012. Is a fantastic movie and a fantastic satire. It takes the same exact concept. Small town mayoral campaign between two opposing sides. One scene where they have the town hall. And Zach Galifianakis brings out the book that Will Ferrell wrote when he was a kid, where it was like, I want to live in the land of like rainbows, and he's like, we should all live in the land of rainbows, or like whatever, and he's just and then the one guy's like, you can't make me live in the land of rainbows.
Please come with me to Rainbow Land, where unicorns are made of fudge and cotton candy, and everything is free.
It's a fictitious place. Rainbow Land, it's fiction.
I guess we're all idiots, according to Cam Brady.
I didn't say that. I did not say that.
Hey, I do not want to live in Rainbow Land, and you can't make me live in Rainbow Land. This is America.
It's like, if you're going to make a satire, I would honestly prefer you to go all out and fucking lampoon politics in general, like that movie does, and do it in a fucking funny, stupid way.
Don't have The Campaign focuses on the politicians. This movie focuses on the campaign strategists. Who fucking cares?
The worst people in the world.
Who cares?
Steve Carell's character is fucking
It's so
miserable.
boring.
He's boring, but he's also just a fucking asshole. He sucks, and I get that's the fucking point of the movie.
And
I don't want to watch him the whole movie.
And there's just a lot of good actors. I really like Mackenzie Davis. She was really good in 2014's That Awkward Moment. She plays Chris Cooper's daughter, and it's not like a love interest between Steve Carell. And also another thing, Steve Carell has no friends, family, nothing. He's like alone.
He's a legit bachelor. He's a 50-year-old bachelor who just walks around by himself.
You can't even say bachelor because he doesn't try to like hit on women or
no, he doesn't do anything. He's kind of just a shell of a character. And that's the thing, is there's no depth to any of these people. You could have named Steve Carell's character fucking liberal elite. You could have named fucking Chris Cooper's character like rural fucking blue-collar worker. Like, all these people are just fucking caricatures. They're not characters.
Yeah.
And that's evidenced by the Steve Carell thing. He doesn't have friends or family or anything in this fucking movie. He just walks around by himself. It's stupid. You replace Steve Carell with like Chris Evans, and this movie is even more of dog shit. It is abysmal. He's the only person in this fucking movie trying, and it's almost embarrassing because it's embarrassing. Like, Jon Stewart obviously gave him his first job. He was a correspondent on The Daily Show. So
wow.
I feel like it's almost like, you gave me my job in showbiz, I'm going to turn in a good performance with you. And for the most part, he fucking does, but it's like, anyone.
But also, I wrote this down when we were watching the movie.
Yeah.
Steve Carell is in a serious boss role. Now, his most memorable role, Michael Scott of The Office, where he's a manager. But in this, there are so many scenes where you're just waiting for him to be like, Yep, man. Like try to like do something like that, but he doesn't. I know if this is like the fucking third time I've said this, but a YouTube video with 122 views propelling a candidate. We're spoiling it. The twist ending is that Mackenzie Davis, Chris Cooper's daughter, they staged the YouTube video that gets him the notoriety. They staged it. They have specific lines.
And all the money from the super PACs and everything generated is going to a community center that was funded by Chris Cooper's character and the guy he's running against. So they're all in on it to basically take the Democratic campaign managers and Republican campaign managers and say, haha, fuck you, we're using you to help fund our actual community.
But again, when you're watching it, does that even register with you?
Well, it doesn't.
Not even a little bit.
No, and you watch it, my reaction when that twist happened was, is that supposed to mean that the jokes that I heard before were funny?
But they
or that the satire was more on the nose when Steve Carell can't open a fucking beer? It's stupid.
And so you have this weird mishmash scene with like 10 minutes left where you're like, I checked out of this movie at the cheese curds joke. like
it's trying to be it's trying to dedicate itself to, the blue collar workers of America by saying that, they're really the backbone of this country and that they have good. At the end of the day, whether they voted for Trump or not, it doesn't matter because you got to build your community centers and you got to. It's stupid.
It's
job
fucking stupid. Doing that,
it's
and that's something that as a belief you can get behind, but when it's explored in this just terribly self-serving way, and I never we saw Rosewater, 2014's Rosewater, also written and directed by Jon Stewart, but Gail Garcia Bernal plays a journalist in war-torn Iran, I believe,
really
who gets captured and it's weird that somehow Jon Stewart, when he brings it to his fucking dojo, something that he made a career off of, it is as bland and as milquetoast as this movie is. What do you gotta give it? I gave it a 3.1.
2.6. Waste of my fucking time.
Boring.
Unfunny. Didn't laugh once. This movie opens with an old man who can't use Siri joke.
It has a 40 right now on Rotten Tomatoes. Now I'm not a I don't go by the Church of the RT. But
oh my god.
That was bad.
Honestly, I think it's like the Rotten Tomatoes crowd of fucking critics is who exactly this movie appeals to. It's like, there's a lot of really good movies with progressive views, but this movie isn't fucking one of them. And the dumbasses who are fucking upper class liberals are some of them in this movie's going to appeal to.
But I think the critics are responding by giving it I don't know how many reviews it has, but a 40%, that's not. I honestly.
That's just how bad and unfunny this movie is.
Is at a stale 40%.
The people this movie appeals to, even they don't fucking like this movie because it's not good.
Coming up next, a rebellious little girl, neo-Nazis, and a mysterious key. Stay tuned to Chera and Buckets.
Call the cops. They're on their way.
Hello, Becky.
Better start running. That fat one, he's gonna like me to need a head start or something.
You didn't call anyone, sweetheart. I have your cell phone.
So I walked to our neighbors, the Griffins. I used their phone. They have a gun, too. So you better leave.
Closest neighbor's a mile and a half.
This is a child's toy. No way it reaches that far. Gentlemen, Becky is on this property, and I don't think any of us feels like playing a game of hide and seek, so why don't we make it easy on ourselves and invite it to us, okay? Stop her bleeding. We might need her. Why don't you walk Jeffrey outside?
No, don't take her, please. Please don't take her. Please don't do this to us. Please don't.
Prepare yourself, Becky. You're about to find out what happens when you lie to me.
Lulu Wilson and Kevin James star in Becky, the new thriller from directors Jonathan Milieu and Carrie Murnian. We follow a troubled teen named Becky, whose vacation with her father and 2 pit bulls is thwarted when her new stepmother and stepbrother show up. However, things get a lot worse when a group of neo-Nazis led by Kevin James Dominic arrive looking for a mysterious key. Now, you might have heard of the Kevin James neo-Nazi movie, and, well, that's pretty much what you get with Becky. It's also what makes it so goddamn good. Becky is a movie that knows its audience, and at its core, it's a film for people that long for the days when filmmaking didn't take itself so seriously. Now, I like a thinker as much as the rest of you, but sometimes all you need to have fun is a bit of style. Following in the vein of modern drive-in thrillers like Don't Breathe and Green Room, this movie has panache, pit bulls, and graphic violence. But, you know, Buckets, when I check my criteria, that's all I really need for a movie that, quite frankly, fucking rules. I recommend it. 8.1.
I couldn't agree more. I recommend it wholeheartedly. I would give it about an 8.4. I loved Becky. Now, this episode is like a tale of two cities, right?
Yes.
You have 2 movies, right, that play their cards incredibly straight. On one hand, you have a movie that plays its cards straight, pulls no punches, and is boring, unfunny, and just a bad movie. On the other hand, you have Becky, where it plays its cards incredibly straight for 90 minutes, pulls no punches, gets right into the action, gets right into the grit, gets you right where you need to be, and you are on board.
Of course.
Becky is a fucking movie.
Yeah.
It's a movie. You watch it and you are entertained by it. You watch it and you go somewhere and you feel something.
Yeah.
And it is pulpy, it is violent. Love Becky.
It's one of those movies that you need now, because you have so many movies that take themselves seriously, like the aforementioned Irresistible, which is, you know, like you said, plays his cards straight. You know what you're getting into when it's a Jon Stewart political comedy. But with Becky,
to diminishing results. People know Kevin James, right? He is a comedic actor. He's a comedic actor who falls down and is fat, and that's funny. You know?
yeah.
If you're watching this movie and you see Kevin James acting his fucking balls off as a hate-filled neo-Nazi for the watch.
I'm just saying the mysterious key that we mentioned a couple times is kind of indicative of what the draw of the whole movie.
Explain.
Because in the sense that it's an empty symbol, and we never really find out what the key does.
We never do.
Alert.
No,
but
we
you
don't.
don't really need to know that, because at the end of the day, all you need is the motivation of Kevin James' character. You just need someone looking for fucking something. And that's why I love this movie, because it's campy and it's fun, and it's all you really need, especially when there's so many just movies out there now that just take themselves so seriously. At its core, the idea of this movie is so straightforward that I could have wrote the idea for this movie when I was 13 years old, but it's executed in such a good way.
When you say take itself so seriously, in relation to this movie, what that means is not getting bogged down by a lot of ancillary ideas,
Of course.
themes, right?
Yep.
This movie, opening scene, Becky's in a mental hospital. 2 seconds. The next second, she's getting out of school, getting picked up by her father to go on a long weekend vacation. Within the first 3 minutes, you get Kevin James walking on the prison yard, scoping the prison yard. It's perfect.
It's a simple tale of good versus evil, and that's all you fucking need. That's all you need. Jump right into the fucking fun when it's a movie that's designed for the drive-in. It's designed to go see at the Brattle with your fucking boys.
Typecasting in these pulpy movies, like in your intro, Green Room, Patrick Stewart playing a neo-Nazi against type. Green Room is a fantastic movie.
I think this film gives you all you need on like an indie budget. You can tell it was made for literally no money. It's shot on a single location. The whole movie.
All the resources are used to perfection.
All the resources, I'm assuming, went to fucking getting Kevin James and getting, like, making that the selling point of this movie.
And I want to go to the point that you said about like being corny, where it's like you could go like full like neo-Nazi propaganda to make them seem more evil and really drive home. There's just one line. He's a purebred. You don't want to mix. That's how you get crazy. Like, he says some variation of that, but that's all you need. They don't go into the psychology of why Kevin James is a neo-Nazi or why these people follow him. You just get it. Opposed to that bullshit Irresistible where you buy none of it. You buy none of the you buy none of the sentiments because it doesn't ring true. It just works so well in a movie that's 94 minutes. Like, I hear a movie is 90 minutes and, like, just everything inside of me just, like, starts to, like, fizz. Like you said, like, it uses all of its resources so well, and it's so well shot.
I love that
it's so well choreographed.
I just think it's better. I think it was better that it had an indie budget or a small budget, because I feel like that kind of adds to the charm of it.
It's so charming. And also, like, we had talked about this a little bit before, but tween actors kind of, like, commanding a role, right? It's kind of hard. Like, go to, like, middle school, the worst years of my life, right? Like, Griffin Gluck was kind of in an in-between period. He was also in Big Time Adolescence on Hulu. He was so annoying in that movie. Like, there are so many, like, numerous accounts of, like, tweens being annoying as lead anchoring roles. Becky, you just get it.
It's like if, like, one of your boys made a fucking great movie, because it's like, it's so bare bones, and it's like, it feels like,
but it's just straight to the point. Again,
no, it's straight to the point. But I'm just saying that
of today's episode is like putting your cards on the table.
I'm not criticizing it. I'm just saying it's like, it's so bare bones in a good way that it's like,
I think bare bones is the wrong way to put it. Bare bones almost seems like it's lacking something.
No.
I would say that it's
like
concise. It's very focused.
Yeah, but it's like,
it's very focused.
I'm saying the budget isn't very high. I'm saying you could do,
but it's focused on the one setting. You know what I mean? It's focused on this centralized cast of characters. You know, it's
but that's all. Those are all symptoms of having no money to make your fucking movie.
But I wasn't thinking about that because I was having such a fucking rip roaring good time.
I'm just saying it's like
this movie.
It's a movie. If you saved your money for a year, I'm saying it's a movie that
if you had a bigger budget, it would get out of hand.
It feels like if I had a script that I wrote when I was 14, and it was my dream to make this movie, and I got a bunch of my boys together, and I saved my money for a year, I somehow got Kevin James, and made this movie, I would be so happy with myself.
You're saying it's a movie that if you saw when you were 14, you'd literally piss your pants.
It's like,
because it's so fucking awesome.
Well, I'm saying it's like the antithesis of having a fucking Christopher Nolan movie. It's like you have these unknown directors working with one sick actor and having limitations to one set, and they end up making movie magic. And I think that's almost more impactful than having a fucking blockbuster budget.
Very, very well explained, Chera. Yeah. Very well explained.
That's all I'm saying. It adds to the charm of it.
And you know, the thing with me is when a movie sticks, like when I wake up the day after watching a movie, right? And I think about the movie, right? This isn't spoilers because you all watching this, go fucking see Becky. I woke up thinking about the lawnmower scene. It just fucking rules. It rules. Just fucking rules.
Yeah.
I loved this movie. I encourage everyone to see it. I would give it an 8.4. You said 8.1?
8.1.
8.1?
It's a fun drive-in movie if you ever get to the chance to see it in like a drive-in or like a smaller theater.
Amazon Prime.
Or on Amazon Prime. See Becky. It's good.
See Becky. It's fucking rules.
Well, that about does it for this edition of Chera and Buckets. Make sure you miss Irresistible. Make sure you check out Becky. It's pretty good. Will, what do we got going on next week?
Next week, we give you a sneak peek of the new Eric Andre, Tiffany Haddish, and Lil Rel Howery film Bad Trip. And we also take a bad trip into the depths of Disney Plus and check out Artemis Fowl. I haven't seen it, but I have heard morbid things. So why don't you catch us next week, grab some popcorn and a Bud Light, and we'll be here at the theater. Cheers.